YouTube. I'm here to do my prediction video for UFC 237. Let's start at the bottom. The first fight is Tatiana, can't say her last name, versus Viviana. To me, Viviana looks like a decent fighter, but she's taking this fight in like 3 days' notice, so it's tough for me to really gauge how good shape she's going to be in for this fight. Both these chicks look decent, but not great. I'm just leaning towards Tatiana. I think she's a little bit better of a grappler, and I think she wins by decision. Next is Ronnie Barcelos versus Carlos, can't say his last name. To me, Ronnie's looked amazing so far. He's 2-0 in the UFC. Both fights, his striking and grappling both look super on point. To me, Carlos, he's taking this fight in super short notice as well. He's taking this in like a week's notice. He's a good striker with some decent wrestling, but I just think Ronnie's grappling is way too strong. I think striking, it'll probably be close. Carlos has probably got a little bit more punching power, but I honestly don't think it's going to matter. I think Ronnie's going to just edge him out with the grappling. I think he'll get it to the ground and just either win by decision or win by submission, so I got Ronnie. Next, we got Warlley Alvarez versus Sergio Moraes, and I think a lot of people probably think Warlley's going to win this pretty easy, but I don't agree with that at all. I think Sergio is much better on the ground, and I think that conditioning-wise, Sergio is much better too. I think Warlley's only advantage is in the striking, and I don't think it's a huge advantage. I think the longer this fight goes, the more it's going to favor Sergio every round. I mean, Sergio's not a cardio machine, but it's way better than Warlley's is. I feel like he can kind of keep the same pace for 3 rounds, even if it's not this phenomenal pace. And I feel like as long as he kind of pushes Warlley at all, I think Warlley's going to gas, and I think sooner or later Sergio's going to take it to the ground by submission. So I got Sergio Moraes winning by submission sooner or later. Next, we got Luana Carolina versus Priscilla. And Priscilla, I felt like her last fight was super close. You know, I felt like that was the real Priscilla. And I think this fight, she's fighting another chick who's pretty good, but I still think Priscilla's a little bit better. I thought her last fight was super close. It could have went either way. But I do think she's going to slightly edge out this one. It's just 2 strikers going against each other. I don't know a ton about the other chick, but I'm going to lean towards Priscilla. I say she wins by a decision. Next, we got BJ Penn versus Clay Guida. I honestly don't know why BJ Penn is still fighting at this point. It's basically pointless. He's like 40-41. Clay Guida's like 36-37. And you look at Clay Guida's last like 4 or 5 fights. He's only lost to Ortega and fucking Oliveira, 2 really good jiu-jitsu guys. And then he's beaten dudes like Joe Lozon and Eric Koch. I feel like, you know, both those guys that I just mentioned are younger and have the exact same style as BJ. I feel like, you know, BJ just doesn't have the cardio or the, you know, the consistency in how often he fights to be able to defeat Guida. You know, I think Guida's just going to push him against the fence with his wrestling. BJ might be able to keep him off for like the first round, but I think once the second round comes, I think Guida's going to get this to the ground pretty easy and just smash him with ground and pound. I think Guida's going to win either by second or third round TKO from ground and pound. Next, we got Irina Endal versus Bethe Correia, and these 2 chicks are both great strikers. I don't think this fight's going to hit the ground. It's basically just who he thinks is a better striker. And I think Betche's, she hasn't fought in a little while, but I always thought she was a really solid striker. It's kind of a coin flip, but I'm just leaning towards Bethe. I say she wins by decision. Next, we got Thiago Moses versus Kurt Holobaugh, and these 2 guys are pretty similar. They're both like striker jiu-jitsu guys. It's just kind of who you think is the up-and-comer, and I think Thiago is. I think he's younger, and, you know, if you look at his losses, it's just to really good people. Even though he lost his USA debut, I felt like he did a really great job against, I can't remember the guy's name, but like I said, it's striker jiu-jitsu guy, and it's just who you think is better, and I think Thiago is a little bit better in both the striking and the jiu-jitsu, so I think he's going to get finished sooner or later, probably in like the second or third round. Next, we got Little Nog versus Ryan Spann, and this kind of depends on if Nogueira can keep it on the feet. I think Ryan is a solid wrestler, and Nogueira's submission game hasn't been super amazing. It's more about defense nowadays than it is offense. I don't feel like he's as good with his triangle and his arm bars off his back like his big brother was. I feel like when he was younger, kind of, but since he's been in the UFC, we haven't seen a phenomenal jiu-jitsu game off of his back. I do think that his wrestling will hold up. It just depends on if he can land that shot. He's getting older, and he isn't fighting as regularly as he needs to, in my opinion, to be super high-level guys. Ryan Spann is a solid up-and-comer. Like I said, I think his overall game is solid. There's no real weak points. This one's tough, but I'm going to lean towards Nogueira. I think he will catch Ryan sooner or later with a good right hand, but it's tough because Ryan is the younger, more well-rounded guy, in my opinion, at this point, but I'm going to lean towards Nogueira. I think he's going to catch him sooner or later. Onto the main card, we got Francisco Trinaldo versus Carlos Diego Ferreira, and this is basically striker versus grappler. I think Carlos is a decent striker, but I think his biggest way to win is to get it to the ground. I think Francisco, it all depends on if he can keep. His biggest issue has always been pacing. You know, he doesn't have horrible cardio. It's just he does tend to gas because I feel like he throws a lot in his shots. And if he doesn't get the finish, then he kind of gasses himself a little bit. I feel like if he paces himself, he should be able to win this fight. I think his striking and takedown defense are better than Carlos's striking and takedown offense. But like I said, if he isn't smart with his cardio, then I think Carlos is going to take him down and submit him. So it kind of just depends on, like, you know, what you think. But I'm leaning towards Francisco. I think he's either going to catch him or just be patient and just edge out the decision. But like I said, I could easily see him gassing and getting caught in submission, but I'm leaning towards Francisco. I say he wins by decision. Next is Thiago Alves versus Luarno. I can't say his last name. I think it's like Soteropoulos. To me, I think Thiago's getting close to the end. I think he's basically said he just wants to get to like 30 or 35 fights. He's at like, I think he's at, you know, high 20s, low 30, 31, 32, something like that. So he's got like 3 more fights. I definitely think he can win this fight because it's basically just 2 strikers going against each other. Luarno isn't like this super devastating striker. He's just got solid striking with good power. I think Thiago, even if he really needs to, he could probably take it to the ground and maybe win by TKO from ground and pound. But it's tough just because Thiago, you know, he still looks decent, but he doesn't look amazing. So Luarno could catch him. But I'm going to lean towards Thiago. Like I said, I think the striking will be pretty close. But even if he does need to, I think Thiago, his wrestling is going to be a big factor if he needs to use it, and I think that might help him get the TKO win, so I'm going to lean towards Thiago. Next, we got Jose Aldo versus Alexander Volkanovski, and I feel like this fight's perfect for Aldo because I feel like Alexander is the type of guy that likes to just come at you, so Aldo's just going to have to fight him, and I think that those are the fights that he does really well at. And, you know, Alexander has the type of style where he could outpace Aldo, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're both going to meet in the middle and trade, and I think Aldo's just faster, and that's what's going to help him, because we saw when Alexander fought Chad, the way he won was because he just outpaced him. But overall speed, I thought Chad had the advantage, and that's why he knocked him down once and a half. It was just once he started getting tired that Alexander took over. I think Aldo's got more fluidity with his striking, but he has the same type of speed advantage that Chad had. So I think it's going to be a similar fight, minus Alexander just overwhelming him because he's just so much better with the striking technique. I think Aldo's just as good as Alexander striking-wise. And I think the wrestling is going to be the same, where he's not going to be able to just take Aldo down because his takedown defense is so good. It could go to decision, but I don't think it will. I think Aldo, one of these guys are going to catch each other, and I think most likely Aldo's going to catch Alexander with like a knee as he's coming in for like a takedown or something, because I do think there's a pretty big height advantage for Aldo, and I think that's what's going to happen. I think this is probably going to be fight of the night. It's going to be back and forth, but I think Aldo eventually wins KO from like a step-in knee or something like that. Next is Jared Cannonier versus Anderson Silva, and of all the top 15 guys, this is the most winnable fight for Anderson Silva. He's basically fighting a guy who's just a boxer. I feel like Jared Cannonier is not... He has decent wrestling, but he never uses it. And his overall striking game, you know, he can do whatever he wants, but he's basically just a boxer. I feel like Anderson, you know, this is his best chance, like I said, to get a win. He may even try to look for a takedown, because Jared Cannonier, you know, he has good takedown defense. He's good at getting back up to his feet, but I feel like Anderson Silva on top is still better, or on his back. It's tough just because Anderson Silva hasn't won like super definitively in a while, but I do think that of all the fights, this is one he probably will win definitively. I think sooner or later, he's going to catch Jared with a strike and probably win by knockout. But like I said, if he loses this fight, he should just retire, because Jared Cannonier is decent, but I don't think he's really just high up because he beat fucking what's his face. But yeah, I'm picking Anderson. I think he wins by knockout sooner or later. Finally, we have Rose Namajunas versus Jessica Andrade, and to me, Rose, his biggest strength has always been when she goes first, when she's offensive, and if she's not like the one dictating the pace of the fight, I think she has a hard time. She kind of gasses, and you know, the fights are always super close when she's not able to just fucking pressure people. And that's what I think is going to happen. I don't think she's just going to be able to push Andrade around. I think the opposite's going to happen. And I think Andrade is just going to eventually beat her up. I think this fight's going to be a lot like when Andrade fought Claudia Gadelha. I feel like, you know, Rose, isn't the same type of striker that Joanna is. She doesn't use her foot movement to like dance around you. It's more to like angle out and counter. But she's not as like circular. It's more like stationary shit, and she's trying to just swing sort of. I feel like Andrade that's going to help because Andrade is willing to eat one shot to get in, and I feel like the wrestling is a huge advantage for Andrade. I think this is going to be a lot like when Rose fought Carla Esparza. I think every round we're going to see Jessica build momentum, and eventually she's just going to get on top and punish Rose until she wins by TKO. And that's what I got. I got like a 4th round finish for Jessica Andrade from TKO. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe.